You know when you sit down to study to do focus work and then suddenly everything else in the universe becomes absolutely fascinating. Your phone, some random idea, the spot on the wall, literally anything except the work in front of you. Or maybe you're the student who can focus for exactly 7 minutes before you feel magnetically pulled to check Instagram again. Look, we all struggle with focus. I mean, I teach this stuff for a living and even I zone out when I don't want to sometimes. Hit me up for conversation about drones or dragons and I'm out. But that's true. But what if I told you there is a simple timer technique that can literally trick your brain into concentrating? Maybe not literally, but it still works that way. And that most students are using it wrong. Today I am breaking down advanced Pomodoro techniques that go way beyond the basic timer method that everyone talks about. These variations can transform how you study, write papers, and tackle any kind of schoolwork that requires brain power and concentration. And of course, not just school. If you're like a working professional or just a normal human watching this video, these advanced Pomodoro techniques are for you too. Because by the end of this video, you are gonna know a few really helpful Pomodoro technique alternatives and exactly which one matches your focus style and the type of work you're doing. Hi, I'm Katie Azevedo of schoolhabits.com. I'm a private study skills and executive function coach who teaches people how to learn and work smarter. That's also the name of my podcast if you want to check that out. And then come find me on Instagram at schoolhabits. I would love to connect with you over there too. Okay, let's start with the basics. This might be a reminder for some of you, or maybe it is completely new. You're all welcome here. But some of you may have heard of the traditional Pomodoro technique. That's where you work for 25 minutes, you take a break for 5, and you repeat until like your homework is done or whatever you're working on is done, or you crash, whichever comes first. It was developed by Francesco Cirillo? Yes, I think I'm saying that right. I have a whole video from a few years ago explaining this technique, but the classic method is simple. You choose a task, you set a timer for 25 minutes, you work without distractions, you take a 5-minute break, and you repeat. And after 4 rounds, you take a longer 15 to 30-minute break, but you have to use a timer. And honestly, this works great for a lot of students, especially if you're studying using active recall, which if you've been here before, you know is the most effective study method. Active recall is so cognitively intense that after 25 minutes, you need a break anyway. But here's what isn't as well known. The 25 5-minute ratio is not your only option. In fact, depending on what you're working on, how your brain works, and I'd say and your energy levels, you might be way better off with a completely different Pomodoro ratio. I know that I use different ones depending on what I'm doing. So today, we're going beyond the basics. I'm going to share some advanced Pomodoro variations that can match your specific needs as a student. And no, you don't have to be an advanced student or an advanced worker to use these. You just have to be willing to experiment and to try something new and to find out what works for you. Because as we all know, one size fits all stuff does not work, especially when it comes to learning. Okay, let's dive into the variations. I have 3 that we're gonna go over. Advanced Pomodoro technique number 1, the 40-10 ratio. So this extends your focus time to 40 minutes with a 10-minute break. This is perfect if you can maintain focus for longer stretches, or maybe if you're working on something that requires deeper concentration. Think research papers, maybe coding projects, maybe reading dense material. But here is the key to this, and I want you to listen closely because it's important. Listen closely to everything. Do not do more than 2 40-10 sessions in a row without taking a longer break, because you'll basically fry yourself. 2 40-10 sessions equals almost 2 hours of work. And that's the same as 4 traditional Pomodoros. You need a break after that much intense focus. So here's what a 40-10 session looks like. Okay, you do 40 minutes of deep work on your task, which you've already determined ahead of time what it's gonna be. And then you do 10 minutes of a proper break. We're gonna talk about what that means in a bit. I'm gonna give you examples of what to do and what not to do on a break. And then for 40 minutes, you continue to work on the task that you were working on, or you could switch to a new task if you finished the first one. After that, you could take 15 to 30 minutes off completely before you restarted another session. Okay, that's option number 1. Also remember, every single time you're taking a break or doing a work session, you are setting a timer. Now, advanced Pomodoro technique number 2 is the 50-10 ratio. This gives you even more focus time, but it keeps that relatively little 10-minute break. It is the same ratio, if you think about it, as the classic 25-5. It's just doubled. Now, when does this work best? writing assignments where you need to get into a flow, maybe complex problem sets where interruptions would kind of mess up your thinking, maybe reading difficult material that you're also annotating because, constantly stopping and starting after 25 minutes could make you lose the thread. Again, you have to experiment. If you have about an hour to work, this is gold. You get 50 solid minutes of focus and then a real break to reset. Again, no more than 2 sessions back to back if you're using this ratio, because that's 2 hours, which is the absolute max I recommend anybody working on anything without getting up, without moving your body, clearing your mind, and taking some kind of legitimate break. And then advanced Pomodoro technique number 3, the 75-15 ratio. This is not for everyone, but if you are someone who can lock in for an extended period of time, this might be your jam. So it's 75 minutes of work, 15 minutes of break. This is ideal for graduate students, maybe major research projects, or when you're creating study materials, like making a really comprehensive study guide or a flashcard deck, maybe writing, maybe even lighter work that's not that intense, like an organization project of your Google Drive or your digital folders or email management or 75-minute admin session. Let me address though real fast the ADHD students who just heard 75 minutes and started laughing. Plot twist, some of you might actually thrive with this ratio. Here's why. If you have ADHD and you know your patterns well, you might recognize when you're about to enter hyperfocus mode. You know, that state where you're completely absorbed and in something and time doesn't exist. Like somebody could be right next to you calling your name and you don't even register. We call that time blindness. It's part of the ADHD hyperfocus tendency. Instead of breaking that hyperfocus after 25 minutes, just because like the timer went off and somebody said use the Pomodoro technique, you could ride that wave for 75. Now I know that some people with ADHD who go into extreme hyperfocus, 75 is nothing. Like they're in it for days. Okay, so I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like if you're just in hyperfocus pattern for a day, okay? But only do this if you truly understand your ADHD patterns. For most ADHD students, stick with the classic 25-5. That frequent break can be your friend as long as you set a timer. Here is where it gets fun though. You can mix these Pomodoro structures because no one's saying that all your Pomodoros have to be the same length. That's just, that's not fun, especially if you have ADHD. You're probably gonna wanna mix it up. So let's say that you have 90 minutes to work. You could do one 50-10 session followed by one 25-5 session and you're done. Or if you have 3 hours for a study marathon, you could try 2 40-10 sessions, a 20-minute break. You can go outside, you can move your body, followed by 2 25-5 sessions. Boom, done, and not a minute wasted. Here's a visual of how you might combine different ratios. Maybe if you have some good morning high energy, you could start with a 50-10. If you have some kind of afternoon slump, but you still have work to do, that's when you could use a 25-5. If in the evening time you generally get a second wind, you could try the 75-15. All right, the key is matching your energy and focus capacity to the right ratio. Now let's talk about how to choose that right ratio. I just gave you some examples of kind of certain kinds of work that might match best with certain ratios, but let's talk more about when to know which Pomodoro variation to use. So first, I want you to consider your focus capacity. If you get distracted easily or you have ADHD, I want you to stick with 25-5 unless you know a different ratio works for you. If you have super strong concentration skills, you can experiment with a 50-10. Second, think about task complexity. So for intense active recall studying, 25-5, I'm gonna say all the way. For reading, note-taking, or some kind of like lighter review, you could try the longer intervals. Third, check your energy levels. If you are exhausted, use 25-5 and be gentle with yourself. Maybe just a couple of them back to back. If you are feeling like a jackrabbit, go for a longer interval. Here is a little pro tip. If you realize mid-session that you've picked the wrong ratio, because we're gonna do that, especially if you're experimenting, don't quit in the middle of it. Stick out that work session until the timer goes off and then adjust from there. I mean, do the right break length that goes with the Pomodoro work session that you chose, but then you can adjust after that. Why is this important? Because you need to train yourself to respect the timer, which is literally training your concentration skills. If you keep backing down or backing out before the timer beeps, you're missing out on the true magic of the Pomodoro technique. It is all about the timer. What is so great about the timer, because I've probably said that like 5 times in this video, I am so glad you asked. Working against a timer creates urgency, which boosts motivation and productivity. The timer keeps you accountable. It is harder to check your phone when you know you only have like 15 minutes left and this little competitive athlete inside of you is like, yeah, I can like rally for 15 minutes, let's go. Yeah, let's go. Also, changing up your strategies fights boredom. Our brains like novelty. It's one of the primary ingredients in motivation. So this is where you can add novelty or newness. And then also, when we work in timed intervals, we're forced to break big projects into smaller chunks. And that alone is a powerful completion strategy because you're not going to sit down and write your essay. Like there's multiple components to your essay. So saying, well, I'm going to work in these 25-5 chunks or 40-10 or 50-10, whatever, forces you to say, okay, I've got this big project. How can I break that down? And that is the best way to complete a long-term project anyway. But here's what will kill your Pomodoro success faster than anything. Womp, womp, womp. I was like, you can do it. Let's go. But here's what could kill it. I'm about to get negative. Just kidding. We're good. But there are some Pomodoro rules that you can't break, no matter the ratio that you've chosen to work with. And these rules are actually about the break in between the work session. So don't break the break rules. Whatever. Okay. There are some break rules you can't break. Listen to me very carefully. Your breaks are just as critical as the work sessions themselves. The breaks are literally what make this entire strategy functional. But, and this is huge, during your breaks, you must not do anything that will trigger strong emotions or distract you from returning the work that you need to go back to. What do I mean by trigger strong emotions? Do not touch your phone. I'm so serious. Do not check email. Do not open YouTube. Don't even glance at Instagram. Definitely don't go on Reddit thinking you're just gonna look at one thing. Why? Because every single one of these can ignite strong feelings in seconds. You get one text from your ex, okay, well, your day's ruined. One email about an assignment you forgot, your focus is destroyed. One TikTok, suddenly it's 3 hours later. Actually, I don't have TikTok, so Instagram for me because I'm old. Why would you do this to yourself? It's like walking into a peanut factory when you know you're allergic to nuts. Like, make it make sense. So what can you do during your breaks instead? There's some safe Pomodoro break activities. Some of them sound cheesy, but if you think about it, like they're very practical. And we're talking about 5-10 minute breaks anyway. So we're not looking to do anything massive. You could get up and go to the bathroom. You could get a snack. You could refill your water bottle. You can make coffee or tea. You can pet your dog or your cat. You can stand outside for a minute. You can walk for 2 minutes out and 2 minutes back. You can lay on the floor and zone out. You can listen to one song, but not on YouTube because there are too many rabbit holes there. You could do push-ups, squats, or crunches. That's my personal favorite because it literally increases energy for your next work session. And look, I know checking your phone during breaks feels natural and deceivingly good. I know that. I'm a human too. Like, I know that. It's probably what you want to do because it's sometimes what I want to do. But the phone will sabotage everything that you're working for. I know you know that. So just save the phone for later. And then one last thing, one tip. If you try a longer Pomodoro ratio and you find yourself staring at the timer thinking like, how has it only been 12 minutes? This feels like forever. Then go back to the 25 5-minute ratio. There is no shame in that game because the best Pomodoro method or the best Pomodoro alternative is the one that you'll actually use. And sometimes we pick a long ratio and it was the wrong one for the work we're doing. Remember, stick it out and then you can adjust. The point is to have options and to know when to use them. The key is to finding that sweet spot between focus and rest that works for you. So try out a few variations this week. I don't want you watching this video and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then you don't do that. Honestly, do that. Pay attention to what feels sustainable versus what feels like torture. And remember, the timer is your friend, but only if you respect the breaks as much as the work sessions themselves. Okay, my friend, your homework is to try just one Pomodoro ratio this week, just one, see how it feels. If you're like, I don't even know where to start, you know what? Try a 50-10. Who knows? That's a good place to start. And if it's too much, you drop down. And if it's too little, then you can pop up to the 75-15. Drop a comment and let me know which ratio you're gonna try first. Or if you're already a Pomodoro pro, tell me your favorite variation. Or if you have a different one than I've shared here, awesome, share it with the rest of us. If this video helped you in any way, please like and subscribe. I read every comment, and yes, it's actually me replying. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here and taking your productivity seriously. Go set a timer, get something done.